Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening. Welcome to Icons and Circles. This is Consul Annette Ablan. For tonight, we have an interesting topic concerning our Muslim brothers. So, for our guests, I was able to invite the director of the Bureau of Muslim Affairs, the Honorable Aleem Guiapal. And he is not a first-timer on the show. In fact, when he first guested, that was about 2 years ago, and he was not yet involved in, in the office of the president in the commission of the Muslim Filipinos. So let's welcome Mr. Guiapal. Thank you, Aleem, for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Consul, and it's great to be back here.
Well, yeah, I think you have a long report to tell us, because a lot of things have happened since the first time that you guested, no?
Exactly.
You organized the Info Forum.
iInvest Forum.
Forum, right? To attract investors to our communities down south in Mindanao.
Exactly.
And from there was already an offshoot of all these developments.
Yeah.
And in fact, we were just talking a while ago that the Bureau of Muslim Economic Affairs is a new office.
Yes, exactly.
Relatively new, like it's what, 3 years?
3 years, yeah, to be exact. It was a law under Republic Act 9997, sponsored by Senator Zubiri. And later on, the former Office on Muslim Affairs, they widened the scope and the operation. That includes the creation of a new bureau, which is the Muslim Economic Affairs.
All right.
Yeah.
And the mission and vision of the Bureau of Muslim Economic Affairs
it's generally to promote and develop projects and programs, particularly to enhance economic development programs among the Muslim Filipino communities. And to be particular, it has avenues on the extension of loans, trade, marketing, and in a more specific scope, as part of the medium-term Philippine Development Plan of the Philippine government under His Excellency President Benigno Simeon Aquino III, we're also looking into establishing a roadmap on Islamic finance, halal development, and the development of a Wakaf fund.
So you can safely say that this is the office that would strategize.
Exactly. And what's so exciting about the office is that I think in some areas among the Muslim communities, we always have this issue on addressing economic development programs. Even with the claim on the social justice and the right to self-determination of the Bangsamoro people, I always see the equation on addressing the economic development agenda among these communities. So this bureau, it's very strategic in a sense that we will serve as a vehicle to address this particular concern. And we had to admit the fact, the lifeblood of the country is the taxes. Same thing with the country. The lifeblood of the nation is the economy. So the way to address the concern of the Muslims, which are in some areas named as the poorest region in the country, is to really provide programs addressing economic development.
Yeah, self-sufficiency and self-sustaining.
Absolutely.
Well, Aleem, what about when you say Muslim communities? Because we have Muslims all over the Philippines now, no? They have resettled, they have migrated to other regions, not just necessarily in Mindanao. In fact, in the Ilocos region, we have a lot of Muslim communities. So this would also include them in whatever programs you have.
Yes, exactly. We, especially the National Commission of Muslim Filipino, where my bureau is working with, we are covering all these areas. We have regional offices in the Luzon area, in Visayas,
All right.
and the data shows that only around 4.5 million are situated in the Muslim areas covered by the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. So some other Muslim communities are. In fact, I visited the regional offices of the National Commission of Muslim Filipino in Cebu, in Davao, and some areas in Luzon. So we're looking forward to address.
What is the total population of our Muslim brothers?
Around 10 million in the entire
10
country,
million.
more or less.
All right.
That's
so-
around 10% of the population of the country.
All right. So, okay, you just mentioned the mission and vision of the Bureau of Muslim Economic Affairs, right? Okay, so far, what have you achieved, and what is your short-term plan, long-term plan, you know?
For the bigger plans, which we had discussed earlier, we really wanted to be part of the nation building when it comes to closure of investment opportunities. We already had meetings with the state of Selangor, and we're looking
Which
at
is
is in Malaysia.
Province.
Yes, and
Okay.
the biggest plantation under Sime Darby is actually located in that area.
Rubber plantation.
Palm oil.
Palm oil.
Yeah, palm oil.
Sam Darby, hindi ba ano yun?
And yeah,
It's into rubber.
yes.
Okay.
They also,
But they also have the
yes.
palm oil
Yes.
products. Okay.
So we are excited into that. We wanted to. The good thing when we bring them here is that we're utilizing our land. One, two is that we'll be providing employment to the Bangsamoro people and to the Muslim Filipinos in general.
Right.
And that's the long-term plan. We need a closure of investment. We need to be part of the nation in building up investment opportunities.
All right.
The small engagement that we had is that we need to develop pool of experts.
All right.
And recently we had received a scholarship grant awarded to the Muslim Filipinos, and most of them are actually
By which from
Malaysia. From
Malaysia.
yes.
All right.
In particular, we received a grant from University Utara Malaysia, and they can pursue MBA or PhD and undergraduate courses.
But I have to be a Muslim to apply for this scholarship.
For now, I think that's our advocacy,
Right, yeah,
because we're addressing some of the
Yeah.
concern of the Muslim
Yes,
Filipinos.
because when you say economic growth, definitely that would include education.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to prepare also the investment portfolio of Mindanao, we need to develop experts. We just sent in 2 of our scholars in Malaysia. They're pursuing Masters in Business Administration, major in Islamic Finance.
Oh,
And
right.
one of the concern of the country is that we really don't have a pool of experts in Islamic finance. If you wanted to welcome...
But aren't you one of them?
Yeah,
you have
you.
an
Thank you.
yes, go ahead, please.
So we're looking forward into inviting more investors to come to Mindanao. In fact, last February, we hosted 22-man delegation of investors coming
From Malaysia.
From Malaysia.
All right.
Yeah, and we're looking at we'll be signing in with the support of the governor of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, Governor Mujib Hataman, and the Vice Governor Hajabay Noncaron. We'll be looking forward into developing endowment fund, wakaf, to be particular, which are Sharia compliance system of developing fund mechanism for the Bangsamoro and for the Muslim Filipinos.
Okay, this would be like loans, microfinancing, or
Where-
what is the fund?
My proposal is to start with a grant, because it's very difficult to ask them to, especially for the poorest of the poor communities. It's difficult for them to pay. However, we also
Well, when you say grant, so okay, for projects, for communities, for
yes, we'll be developing that fund. In fact, this coming October, there will be already a pledge of commitment to start up with raising of 100 cattle for some of the identified communities in Maguindanao.
for livelihood
Yeah,
projects.
for livelihood.
All right.
And then for the other areas, we'll be
so livestock, no?
Yes, livestock.
Right.
For the other areas, we'll be looking for the middle class, and for some of those who can afford, like the small and medium-sized enterprise, we'll be tying up with the Amana Ikhtiar Malaysia is one of the biggest microfinance institution in Malaysia.
All right.
They're actually lending minimum of 1,000 US dollars in some of the communities in Malaysia. So we wanted to borrow their technology, and they're willing. In fact, the government, the autonomous government in ARMM and the Amana Healthcare Malaysia just signed a memorandum of understanding to this end, and our office is responsible for facilitating the signing.
Wonderful.
Yes. And we also would like to acknowledge the Excellency Ambassador Eduardo Malaya, the ambassador of the Philippines in Malaysia.
Oh, right.
He has been very spontaneous in all his support, very
Yes.
innovative, and
Yeah, very hardworking.
yes. In fact, he was the one. He was the one who commanded that our office, the NCM, National Commission of Muslim Filipino, through our bureau, the Muslim Economic Affairs, to spearhead, in coordination with the Department of Foreign Affairs, the holding of the 3rd Joint Committee meeting. Hopefully, it will come. It will be happening in July this year, addressing the socio-economic advancement of the Muslim Filipino.
All
Very
right.
particular agenda.
Okay.
So we're
And
very
this will be
excited.
held here or in Malaysia?
In the Philippines, and I'm lobbying to have it hosted in the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. Yeah. For the past year, they did it in Malaysia. That's the first round of talk. The second round was held here in Manila in Shangri-La.
Okay.
And I would like to advocate to develop the business industry in Mindanao, so I'd like to host it in Mindanao.
Of course, the actual place where development or investment should come in.
Exactly. And also for the investors to see the area.
All right. I know that you're also very much involved in, exchange between trade
Yes.
trade delegations. No?
Yes. Part of the flagship program of the Muslim Economic Affairs is we're hosting investment forum.
All right.
Yeah. For the first round of, I think you're also informed before joining the government. It's already one of my advocacy. I'm trying to build up the brand and image of the Muslim communities and build up the confidence of the investors to come to Mindanao and see the potential of the area. When I came here the last time, I think that was last year.
The first, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned about some of the areas that are potential for investment.
Yeah, like okay, we can share it to our
so
viewers.
We're looking at, I mentioned about the 7,000 hectares that are available for investment and for joint venture for possible palm oil or rubber plantation.
Palm oil, rubber plantation, and
coconut,
okay.
virgin coconut oil.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, I brought some of your friends there, the
Okay.
Korean investors. They were able to visit the area.
All right. So I think the main concern for all these investors, correct me if I'm wrong, is the security situation in Mindanao.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
from when we first discussed this up to this day, how has it improved? How has it been, solved? The security situation, the security.
Before I did the iInvest Forum, I did a research on this as part of my paper in developing the investment portfolio of the Southern Philippines. It's really the branding and the image. When I came to Thailand,
It's marketing, right?
marketing. It's really the branding and the imaging of the area, and I can relate to that because when I went to Thailand, and I was asked to go to Patani. Patani is the southern part where there is
where
conflict.
where there are Muslims.
And there are
also.
Muslims.
All right.
My first reaction was that when I read the news, there are bombings in the area. So sometimes these are isolated cases,
Yes.
and I can say, I can relate to that. If from the point of view of an investor,
Right.
I didn't go to the area because I was scared. So same thing with Mindanao. Now I can relate to that because when I went to the area, I went to Maguindanao, to Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Lanao del Sur. The areas are peaceful, and these are isolated cases. And there's some successful businesses who has been operating in the area. The member of the panel of the GPH, Government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, Senin Bakani, he's a former Department of Agriculture Secretary and now sitting in the peace panel. I had a talk with him, and he can attest that there are some businesses who's been operating in the area. And when we also did an investment,
Successfully operating in
operating in their area, and they're making money, they're making good profits. And there are also some plantations that are successful, like the banana plantation in the area of the late Toto Paglas. So these are success stories that would tell us that putting up a business in the south, in the Bangsamoro communities are possible and feasible, and there are success stories on it.
Okay, so I was thinking that if you have these investors coming in, no, it was pointed out in one of our conferences, I think in the Consular Corps of the Philippines, you know, you have to give these communities their responsibility,
Yes,
you
true.
know, so that they will take care more of their area of responsibility,
that's
you
true.
know, so that it would be difficult, you know, for how would I say, negative elements
Exactly.
to penetrate.
Yeah, true.
So if whether it's giving them a piece of land, you know, in the peripheral areas, whether it's giving them some responsibilities for them to, you know, care more, be more concerned.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree with that. That's where we're putting our recommendation for areas where it's communally owned by the people.
right,
Yeah,
right.
it
That
should be
one.
joint. We're recommending joint venture
Yes.
with the investor as well as the community. And
Because they're the frontliners. They'll be
Yes.
the first one who will
Exactly.
protect, you know, the project.
Exactly.
Right.
And also a very good avenue would be to have them for areas that are owned by the landowners or corporation or
Yes, yes.
small and medium-sized enterprise for that matter, that they can have their shareholders' interests.
Yeah.
They can be part, like what you were saying, they can be part of the entire operation.
And also, of course, for the big companies, corporations to have their
Yes.
social responsibility,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
you know, to also develop the, well, the members of the community,
True.
the stakeholders, as you would call them.
Yeah, and there was a very successful case in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That time where the 9/11 happened, a lot of airlines got a problem. And there was this one case study that we did at the Asian Institute of Management. We actually, I really admire the case because the people at that time who were working in the airline industry, although they had a hard time, they were fully cooperating and they managed to compensate the loss that they have in terms of income and profit because everybody in the company are working. Why? Because everybody has a stake. They are shareholders.
They have their interest to
Yes,
protect. All
yes.
right.
So it's different when you just employ people because sometimes they get tempted to move out and develop their career or do something else. But
Right.
when they are part, like what
Yes.
you were saying, part and parcel of the operation,
Yes.
they have a shareholder's interest in the profit of the company, then that makes them a different actor.
All right. So I understand also that, well, a friend of mine who's Muslim, right? They have migrated already to Luzon. From Mindanao, they've gone to Luzon. But he says there's still immense need for education.
Yes.
Because also the mind frame, you know. I don't know what part of Mindanao you come from, Ali?
From Maguindanao.
Maguindanao.
Yes.
Okay, so how is the educational system there right now? I mean, is there still a lot? You're also working on that, right?
Yes, yes.
On more school
Scholarship, yeah.
Well, also school buildings and all of this, especially now that you have the K+12.
Yes,
So
true.
more classrooms you need also in
Exactly.
all the schools.
Yes. We also would like to commend the work of the Vice Governor of the Autonomous Region, Hajabay Noncaron. He's also the Secretary of the Social Welfare and also the Secretary of the Department of Education in ARMM. They've been addressing that concern. I understand when they sign a contract with the Habitat for Humanity, it's part of the counterpart of Habitat for Humanity. They donated daycare centers.
Daycare
Yeah,
centers.
so we're working on that. On a bigger scope in the operation, the Department of Education in ARMM has been addressing this issue, providing more schools, and the governor himself, Governor Hataman, is working so hard to address this concern.
So when you mentioned habitat, that means building homes,
Yes.
right? But you just don't build homes, you build a whole community
Yes.
where the children can go to school nearby.
Exactly.
Or, you know, all these other facilities that you need to create how do you say, a wholesome community.
Yes, that's a good thing I learned from the project with with the working with the autonomous region,
Mm-hmm.
that they had their different efforts, especially after the signing of the Bangsamoro framework.
Mm-hmm.
The framework signed between the government of the Philippines and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front.
So you had some inputs. Your office also had inputs
We're
there.
we're addressing some needs because we need to
Mm.
prepare a recommendation to the president's office.
Mm-hmm.
At our end, we've been consolidating different consultation
Mm-hmm.
with the small and medium-sized enterprise, the traders, and the cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Our office is challenged in a way that we're new, and at the same time, we're trying to build up the confidence of the local communities,
Mm-hmm.
the national leaders, as well as the international diplomatic community to be part of the change. In fact, the government they already created the transitional commission to prepare the ARMM for a transition, because there would be a new, they call it Bangsamoro, the new name for
So there was
the
also that
autonomous region.
transition to this other
Yes.
entity. Or you call
Yes.
it an entity or?
Yes, it's a political entity, and we'll be providing our recommendation. And whether it doesn't
No,
really.
but my question was, Aleem, when the government of the Philippines, through the president, signed an agreement with the Bangsamoro,
Yes.
did your office have any inputs in when there was a signing or before they signed it?
We were indirectly consulted because it's a very
So that was political and you're
yes.
economic, but still it
Yes.
goes hand in hand,
Yes.
no?
And there are some institutions who are working on it. There was a consultation I attended in Davao, and they're actually they're working closely with it's a civil society organization called the Consortium of Bangsamoro Civil Society, and I was part of the consultation. And it's nice to give inputs so they would understand. In fact, one of the things that came out during the consultation is that they want us to prepare. They were suggesting we can also prepare a framework, an economic framework, as far as the transition is concerned. So now that we're operating based on the structure of the national government, what would be our recommendation when there would be a new framework? It's still part of our portfolio, especially the 4.5 million of the Muslims reside in that part of the region.
All right. So there is really a lot to be desired for,
Yes.
no, with regards to investment and
Yes.
development,
Yes.
no, for the Muslim communities.
And that's why I'm very thankful that we'll be convening the third joint committee meeting. And I find this platform as a startup of a bigger initiative. In fact, we just receive support from the Department of Foreign Affairs. We'll be convening also I understand it will be the first that we'll be doing in the country, the International Islamic Finance Conference. And we would like to engage ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, and the OIC countries to be part of this.
All right.
So we're looking forward to have that hosted sometime in the first quarter of 2014.
Yeah, because if I, if correct me again if I'm wrong, but I know that the ASEAN brothers, no,
Yes.
they really want to push forward
Yes.
development in the region.
Exactly.
Not only individual countries, but ASEAN as a
Yes,
region
sure.
as a whole.
So it's nice to be part of this initiative.
All right. So Aleem will take a short break. So stay with us. We'll have more to discuss.